across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome to Talk. This is where we absolutely speak common sense and reflect the views of people around the United Kingdom. The very thing that's killing children, his words, he's not banning. As long as you pay £12.50. Sick note Britain is thriving. These things can kill. You haven't got to be a dog expert to work that out. Every afternoon here on Talk, you don't want to be going anywhere else. It's as simple, straightforward as that.
Welcome to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill, and I'm joined by fan favourite Will Kingston. He is a political commentator. Welcome to the Friday Night Fun Show. We're going to have a little bit of fun tonight. I do want to start off, though, on a really, really serious note. RAF Wethersfield. This is a base that used to house servicemen. It now houses asylum seekers. Now, this has been a huge, huge source of controversy. It's been taken over by the Home Office. It houses migrant men, strictly under 65. These men are housed, they're fed, they're given leisure activities, they're bussed into local towns where they have reportedly leered at women and made local community feel unsafe. This is at breaking point, and this is, by the way, all on your taxpayer dime that Rachel Reeves has so cravenly taken off you just yesterday. Well, it certainly feels very lively. There've also been reported fights on the base, migrant parties, which we reported here on this show, The Political Asylum, firsthand, and in footage we can share from you for a whistleblower, it looks like nothing is changing. Let's take a look at this. So that right there are smashed windows, alcohol being drunk, you know, drugs being taken. We've seen this is all allegedly, but these are videos that have been obtained by the brilliant people at Stop the Buses in Wethersfield. So this site basically has been seen by asylum seekers. They've tried to sue the Home Office for inadequate accommodation, claiming that it ruined their mental health. There have also been continuous reports of violence on these sites. Now, I want to bring in two people that are absolutely at the forefront of this invasion. I'm going to call it an invasion because it is. We've had more people storm the beaches than D-Day. We are at breaking point. Holly England from Stop the Wethersfield Buses and James Timms, who is a friend and also a Hillingdon resident. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hi,
Thanks
thanks
for
for having us tonight. Nice to be back.
Lovely to have you both. Now, Holly, I want to start with you. What is going on in this town? Because just looking at some of the footage that we will play out on the screen as the show goes on, if you're watching, and if you're listening, it's basically just debauchery taking place at this RAF base. What is going on? I know you've been having protests. I know that you've been trying to stop the buses from at least coming into the town and potentially, you know, these people leering at women, using alcohol as some sort of social lubricant to go and, you know, go and talk to other people. What's happening right now?
They just seem to be running wild. They're being bussed in two or three times a day. 2 to 3 times a day? Yes, we are getting times, days and times, the buses coming in and out. Between 2 and 3 times a day, they can come in sort of morning, afternoon, and then evening are the drop-off and pick-up times. I've seen them personally myself walking in and out of the local supermarket with cases of beers and carrying bags of ice. They sit outside the supermarket, leering at women. I have so many women message me personally saying that we don't know what to do. We don't want to report it because we know it's not going to go anywhere. But then at the same time, we need to speak up so that people are starting to come to us. You know, we started as a small protest group, which is now growing into something a lot bigger. You know, we are evidently getting a lot of videos that nobody else can get hold of. We have people inside giving us these videos to sort of help us to prove a point. This isn't normal, you know, whether they're in the country illegally or not. Why are you there smashing things up, taking drugs, drinking? You are not fleeing war. This is not people that are fleeing war. I'm sorry, but it's not.
No, they're not. I mean, we know that the majority country now for asylum claims is Afghanistan. Now, a lot of those people come here actually via the plane and they just kind of hide in plain sight and then claim asylum. Now, that's not a war-torn country. Yes, it's had its issues, but it's absolutely not. I want to refer to Will here, who has definitely got some things to say about this, and then we'll come to you, James.
Yeah, well, it's either Afghanistan. I believe it may even be Pakistan, which we can say for sure is not a war-torn country at this current point in time. Look, what do you expect is the bottom line when you put a group of 18 to 30-year-old men in a small, confined space with nothing to do. Of course, this is going... Fundamental point is this is happening purely as a result of a decision made by government. I can hear the lefties now already saying, well, what about the white kids who are taking drugs? What about the white kids who are causing civil disorder? What about the cocaine in Soho House? Yeah, all problems. But the fundamental point is we don't need to import any more problems. And every single one of these cases is an imported problem that didn't need to be imported.
James, look, you're really at the forefront here of this problem. I have had the privilege of going on one of the marches that you organised, and honestly, it's something that has stuck with me, even still to this day I think about it, because it's not until you're in Hillingdon that you really understand how fenced in it is by these 3 massive asylum hotels. I mean, even when we were on the march, I noticed that someone was trailing us and I started to get really scared. James, how's it going? We haven't spoken in a while. What is going on with your situation over there in Hillingdon?
Well, it's no better off than we were before. We still have the problem where we've got them walking up and down the high street. They come out and do whatever they want, spitting, leering at women at the park still. You know, I had hoped that personally after my own daughter's incident that it would never happen to another child. And lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, I had one of my friends explain to me that his 12-year-old daughter at 8 o'clock in the morning on her way to school, grabbed by her skirt as she was getting off the bus, and then as she protruded backwards, he then stuck his hand up her skirt. Right. You know, it's a 12-year-old girl. And
now, do we know do we know the immigration status of this man, or?
Yeah.
Right.
He was wearing a tracksuit, the grey tracksuits that they are supplied from the Crown Plaza Hotel. And this is why we tried to say to people as well, you know, with all these protests, that, you know, we have got to really come together, and especially up on the Crown Plaza, and maybe even now be really serious and actually take this to London. You know, we've all got to join forces, you know, with all the evidence that we've got, because, you know, this is proof that it's now not just affecting Hillingdon Borough. You know, all these people that have died recently wouldn't have died had these people not been in this country.
Exactly, you know, and that's what precisely.
Wayne Broadhurst, the people on the train attacks. You know, it's just got beyond a joke. You know, we really have to start standing together and, you know, putting our voices as one. And if it means that we've got to cause chaos on the way to do it, you know, so it gets us heard, so be it. But something has got to change. These people are not welcome in this country, where they're coming in clearly smoking drugs, drinking beer, attacking our women and children. And it just shows now that it's not just limited to women and children, i.e. Wayne and all the other victims that have fallen since all of this, you know, and it is just absolutely disgusting.
And when you talk about Wayne, you obviously talk about Wayne Broadhurst, who we can't talk too much about because that is obviously an open case at the moment, but he will be having a funeral, which I hope that I can attend as well and report on, because it's really, really serious, and it shows just the actual real life effects of what happens when we really import the unknown. I mean, I don't want to put a blanket statement out. Not all of them are rapists, not all of them sexually assault people, but the issue is that we don't actually know who these people are, because they come in, they throw their documents out the side of the boat or whatever, visa. They lie sometimes on their applications, and that is where the issue lies. When you import a lot of people that you don't know into your community, that's when people start to get very, very scared. Would you agree, Will?
You know it's getting ridiculous. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
You know it's getting ridiculous when you see two immigrants walking into a hotel with a 65-inch flat screen television where they've gone out and put their money together and taken it back to the hotel to go and watch it there.
It's not right. And, you know, when I went into your community, I spoke to mums who were having to choose between giving their daughter morning tea or afternoon tea because they couldn't afford both. And it really is disgruntling when you've got people out the front of their house living in 4-star hotels getting 3 meals provided for them every day. This is the breaking point that the nation's at the moment, and you can't just skate by it. This is what's going on the front lines.
My heart doesn't just break for the women and children of these communities that have to deal with this threat. There are refugee camps all across Africa, across the Middle East, across war-torn parts of the world, where you do have legitimate refugees who are women and children who are suffering. And unfortunately, because the refugee program here is so broken, they don't get a look in. Instead, you get 18 to 25-year-olds coming here basically to get on the grog, to go out to leer at women who are not genuine refugees. The thing is, this country actually could have a balanced program at some point in the future where there were proper refugees in a balanced, moderate numbers, perhaps at some point in the future. But because of this ridiculous policy, that makes that impossible.
Holly, I want to talk to you for a second. They're looking at basically expanding this buses thing to Crowborough. What do you say to that?
Well, to be fair, we've had a little bit of information on this one. Yes, they are expanding it, and came out that Foster Hartley have actually won the contract. We found this information out ourselves. They've won the contract to bus them around everywhere. So, yeah, it's definitely happening from that, and the fact that they're advertising these jobs online for people to bus them around. So, yeah, it's looking... It's going to be happening, yeah, unfortunately.
Honestly,
absolutely shocking.
It's shocking. And, you know, as I said, it's turning into a nationwide problem. I mean, Holly, do you feel safe going into your town and just doing regular things like going for your shopping, you know, going and picking up a prescription, etc.? Is that something that you feel safe doing anymore?
I don't think anyone does. Like I said, the amount of people I talk to, I've had elderly women, young women, you know, so many people message me saying they're genuinely terrified. And what you've got to remember is they're dropping them off at the main bus stop in Braintree, where elderly get off the bus as well. So it's not like they're doing it away from the bus station where the elderly are getting on and off, or young people for school. They're doing it in the main bus stop. So people are genuinely terrified to go into the town just for the pure fact of getting on and off the bus. That's without walking around the town as well. It's genuinely very serious. You know, they say there's only 1,245. Well, they're not the numbers that we're being given at the moment. We're being given 3,000, and they're knocking it up to 3,100 as well. So the government aren't giving true facts, and I'm going to be honest and be the one that says it's rubbish. And we have seen all this. So unfortunately, they're up in the numbers quite drastically. But we've noticed it. People have noticed themselves going into the town. I've noticed myself. There seems to be over the last couple of months, probably I'd say tripled the amount of guys walking around. At least tripled. So from what we're hearing, the numbers are tripling. It's making sense to what's going on in the town centre.
Well, this is what the other thing which I find incredibly annoying about Shabana Mahmood's recent statements, which sounded very tough. It sounded like she was taking this problem very seriously, but it doesn't solve the fundamental concerns of the British people. Number one is that you're spending huge amounts of money to house illegal migrants. Just because you take them out of a hotel and then put them in a house doesn't change that fact. It's not the nature of the accommodation that's the problem. The problem is that you're giving them free accommodation in the first place. But the second, I think, more important fact is that you are not detaining these people as soon as they arrive in the country. You should be letting them land on the beaches in the first place. But if you do, you shouldn't be letting them out in the community as a matter of public safety. And that doesn't seem to be changing, no matter how tough Shabana Mahmood wants to yell and scream in Parliament. To me, this is a national disgrace, but it's a national disgrace which is being couched in tough talk to try and trick the British people.
This is what I don't understand also, is the fact that they sit there with questioning why on earth they are sitting there with pool tables, you know, everything, ping pong tables, and they've got so many things. And the reason is, apparently, is the fact that if we give them things, they'll stay inside Wethersfield. Well, that's not the case, because they're being busted in every day. So if we're paying for them to stay in Wethersfield for all these little fun games that, you know, we'd all like to sit there playing all day. None of us want to go and sit there and work all day. And then walk into a supermarket after I finish a long shift and sit there and watch someone come out with a ton of beer that's just got that for my tax money is quite frustrating.
It's blood boiling, Holly. It's blood boiling. And you know, you're right. You're right. I contacted the Home Office about this, and the Home Office's response was, we provide, as you just said, those pool tables so that they'll stay in the accommodation. I mean, I'm sorry. That's absolutely ridiculous. We should not be justifying these purchases saying, oh, that's how we control them. I mean, when you look at the quality of person that we're bringing in, you know, I've got a lot of time for people who want to make this country a better place, but they don't necessarily look like people who want to make this place a better country. I mean, well, would you agree?
You know, okay, a pool table is one possible way of keeping people inside. A fence and a locked door, I would argue, is a more effective way of keeping people inside. So this clearly isn't about public safety. This is about the optics of, again, A, threading the needle between trying to look kind and compassionate enough to their lefty base, whilst making the justifiable public rage die down just enough so that they can hopefully stop the reform wave. And at the moment, what they're doing is Labor basically are just annoying both sides. They're not getting anything right.
Would you agree with that, James?
Yeah, definitely. You know, the country is in such a state now, and, you know, this obviously proves with everything that's going on, you know, bussing them around. You know, I've never heard something so ridiculous in all my life. You know, it's, you know, we might as well just be standing there with wallets of cash and just handing it to them with a set of keys to a car and a set of keys to a house and saying, you know, come and take what you want. You know, come and do what you want. You know, in fact, you know, take my car keys, take my house. You know, because that's the point it's getting to now, where they're evicting families that can't afford their bills. And then these houses are then being taken over as a legitimate HMO, or are they a legitimate HMO, and then being given to illegal migrants. So, you know, these undocumented men just free to do exactly and whatever they want, and it is just a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And you know, this is just a constant battle with the government, because obviously they need to wake up and see that, you know, this is not just one borough, this is not just one county, you know, this is just spreading like absolute wildfire, and it is just completely and utterly out of control.
And that's what I wanted to show on this show tonight, is that we genuinely don't have a grip on this. It's happening everywhere. You know, when we do little segments about this place and that place, it doesn't show how much it's actually happening to everything.
It's happening almost everywhere, Samara.
Yes.
I'm not sure there are many migrant hotels in Notting Hill or Islington or Chelsea or Fulham, for example. I think so much of this comes down to class. I think so much of this is a Labor government that gave up on the working class a long time ago, saying, you know what, we'll chuck out all of these migrant hotels and the associated problems that come with them in traditionally working class areas, and because they have relatively less power in society now, it's basically out of sight and out of mind. And our now academic kind of intelligentsia style voting base won't care, because they can still live in their bubbles in the richer parts of London and the major cities, and they can still have a happy, relatively comfortable life. So much of this comes down to class for me.
It is the working class that are continually put on the front lines of this invasion, because they know that they will sit down and shut up. Well, I'll tell you two people that won't sit down and shut up. That's Holly England and that's James Timms.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate both of you coming on. You are doing so much good work. It is a thankless job doing what you do. I'm sure you get branded all sorts of things. We see you guys as national heroes. Continue doing what you're doing, because it is seriously, you're sticking up for your community, and at least you can sleep sleep at night, because I don't know how some people in Westminster and Parliament do sometimes. Thank you so much for coming on the show. That's Holly England and that's James Timms, and they are both community organisers. I do just want to say that the Home Office has said that some of the minibus footage that might or may not been showed in the ULA, it shows behaviour that is completely unacceptable. We expect all perpetrators of criminal damage to face the full force of the law. This government has sent a clear message to those with no right to be here, with nearly 50,000 illegal immigrants removed or deported since the election. Okay, I mean, yeah, we've had massive amounts of crossings. I mean, just not small boats, but in terms of asylum applications, we've had over 110,000 this year. So, all right, government.
We also know that fact has been largely debunked, and that the vast majority of those are people who have outstayed their visas and have left voluntarily. It's not like there's been a mass deportation exercise, which now has widespread public support. So I'm sick of the government trying to talk tough on this issue, but in terms of actual policy actions, there is nothing that will stop the flow of illegal migrants entering this country.
No, we need an Operation Sovereign Borders, but that's another topic for another time. After the break, Charlie Mullins, someone who's effectively fled the country because he hates Rachel Reeves so much. We're going to talk more about that after these messages.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, I'm getting quite a few messages in, which I'll read later, about that segment. People are riled up, and rightly so. 0344 499 1000 is the number, or text 87222 and put talk at the start of it so it reaches us in the building if you want to get in contact. I don't really believe in questions, so just call me about anything. I mean, we'll be diving into some massive topics, and do stay tuned for Young Bob, who will be in with us at 8 p.m. He's one of my favourite humans. Speaking of favourite humans, Charlie Mullins is joining us. He's the founder of Pimlico Plumbers. I mean, this man predicted this, well, I can't say that on air, can I? This hell show, let's just say. What's happened to this country? This man predicted it all, as he usually does. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good evening, Samara. It wasn't that difficult to predict. I think as soon as Labour government got in, we know their past record, they're socialists. They're obviously anti-business, and they're doing exactly what they plan to do. You know, bankrupt the country, put us into recession, and drive not just successful people out of the country, but then they're driving all the youngsters out of the country because they know there's no future in the UK for them.
Well, you're right. We got these immigration statistics just yesterday, and it says, oh, net, we've only had 250,000 people in the country. Well, all right, we've had a lot of people leave. That's the definition of net. Net 110,000 British people aged 16 to 34 emigrated in the year of March, according to the official statistics, accounting for 2/3 of all departing Britons. This is serious stuff, you know. This is the future. We talk about people leaving, but we also should talk about brain drain. That's a real thing that's happening to this country. We're losing our best and brightest because they're getting offered a better deal somewhere else. Don't you agree?
Yeah, well, look, let's not kid anyone. Who wants to pay 50% tax? Who wants to pay for all the ponces that are not working? Who wants to pay for all the lazy people? Who wants to pay for all the migrants, immigrants, fake asylum seekers, illegals? You know, hard-working tax people don't want to pay for it. We've all had enough. And youngsters now are starting to realise that, you know, with the latest budget, with this Rachel Reeves, you know, coming up with what she's stuck in the budget, she's just killed off another generation of youngsters and getting into work by increasing minimum wage and living wage. Somebody's got to pay for that. It's not the government that's paying for it. It's the bosses, it's the workers that are paying for it. And she's just driven out another generation of youth people. I mean, I'm talking to friends I know that are in Dubai now trying to get their residency there, and they're 17 years of age because they know they'll be welcome there, they'll be given a job there, they'll have a great lifestyle there, and they won't get stabbed, they won't get raped, they won't get attacked, they won't get mugged, they won't get ripped off by the Treasury.
They've got 0% tax. I've got a lot of issues with the Middle East. I've got a lot of issues with Dubai, but I can totally see why it's very, very lucrative for the younger generation. I mean, how would you describe Rachel Reeves in one word?
Well, it's unprintable, isn't it?
I agree.
She's a proper
come on,
one.
go clean. You could go some sort of clean description of that woman.
I don't know what she was saying. I mean, look, she's anti-business, she's clueless, she's as thick as they come, and she's very, 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 like, stupid woman, because everything she's doing is to have the vice versa effect of driving people out of the country. But it's not just wealthy people. When does she start going to realise that she's now losing anybody that can afford or anybody that can get out of the country? She's killed off another generation of youngsters. Honestly, in Dubai, they are queuing up now, right, youngsters to get their residency, and I've been approached by them to help to draw youngsters into Dubai, because they know that if they get our youngsters early, they can train them, teach them, and have them as homegrown. And my advice to any youngster: if you don't think you've got a future in the UK, then get out of the UK, and Dubai will welcome you with open hands. You will earn good money. The standard of life is unbelievable, and the weather's unbelievable, and you will do very, very well within a few years, and you will not be given a poxy government that we've got 50% of your earnings.
Samara, sometimes I do.
I'll bring in Will Kingston here, who knows a thing or two about the economy.
Charlie, Samara and I are both two rare examples of people who've gone the other way and entered the Titanic after it hit the iceberg. What I don't understand about this government is that they still think it's the 1700s where it's really, really hard to move from one country to another. Now, obviously for millionaires or billionaires, dead easy because, you know, they've got private jets. They can move their money easily because they've got good accountants. But what these figures show is that if you are even, you know, somewhere between the ages of 18 to 30, you got a bit of money. You don't need much. It's not that hard to get residency or get some sort of work permit in Dubai or Australia or New Zealand, for example. Like, what this government doesn't seem to understand is how easy it is for people to move out of the country. What do you put that down to? Is it a lack of business experience on the part of this government? Is it something else? I can't understand how they can't see that basic point.
Yeah, well, it's a common sense thing that youngsters do not have a future. The government haven't invested in them, and you know, you'd be a fool to want to not go to somewhere like Dubai where you can earn 50% less and still be better off. You're appreciated, you're looked after, you have an amazing lifestyle, and I have to say, you're safe. You're not going to get stabbed, raped, mugged off, anything. But you know, it's the second safest country in the world.
Yes, I agree with you. I've always had issues with Dubai because obviously the Emiratis do control that town. You'll always kind of be a second-class citizen over there, even if you do make it to the top. But it is these basic liberties that people are leaving their homeland for. Safety and money security. And so you can see just how desperate times are when people are considering a move to the Middle East for that future. So I can totally see why you're saying it's lucrative. But, you know, you've done more for young people than most of these politicians in this country, Charlie. You brought a lot of young people up through the ranks through your business, Pimlico Plumbers, and you don't get thanked for that. What I do believe is that Labor and successive governments hate business owners. Now, I come from a business family myself, okay? I've seen that it's not exactly the easy life being a business owner. You're actually paying about 50 people's mortgages. It's not this like, you know, you've got a pot of gold and you're just, you know, trudging around. This is something that you do. You sacrifice your sanity daily to be a business owner. Does Rachel care about businesses? Because Churchill said it himself, you can't tax a nation into prosperity. She doesn't seem to get that, does she?
Well, she doesn't get anything about business. I mean, let's be fair, she's not the right person for the job. She's a square peg in a round hole, and this is the result we've got from it. And the rest of the Labour government, none of them have had their own business. They've always been like civil servants or working for a non-profitable business. You've got to have people involved with the government that are in business or got some common sense, at least. But the biggest problem they're going to have now is losing all the youngsters. And, you know, you're going to have nothing coming through. We're not training people. You know, I've tried my best with apprentices. We're still running apprentices at We Fix London. But the government just makes it harder and harder.
Well, it was Blair's government that wanted to shove everyone into university and then essentially screwed our system over, in my opinion, because it's also happened in Australia where there's too many people doing, you know, degrees in the arts and degrees in, like, you know, I don't know, basically Mickey Mouse degrees, which are about, I don't know, magic and creative writing. It's not right. I think the apprentice system that you have really fostered is the way of the future, and it's how we're going to lift a lot of people out of poverty in this country. But Rachel doesn't seem to care.
Well, I mean, why would you go to university knowing in 5 years' time that this AI, you're not going to be needed to do that job? So surely somebody's got to start educating youngsters and tell them that you've got to get into trades, you've got to get into something where you're going to have a future. And I have to go back to Dubai. They're just so encouraging to people. I mean, I know many people have gone there a couple of years ago and they're like multi-millionaires now, and they're living an amazing life. We knock successful people, we hammer them like until they can't get no more out of them. And I'm talking about now, as I say, a 17-year-old lad today, a friend of his son, he said to me, he's in Dubai now getting residency, and I had another guy come on to me, another friend, his son, just come out of university, he's applied for 200 jobs, hasn't got anything. So, you know, they're directing
all this time.
I mean, you know, look, for me, look, you know, I've got no interest in the UK whatsoever, and I'm not prepared to pay for all the non-workers and all the ponces any longer. And I think I'm speaking for millions of people that we've had enough of it. And unless you make a stand, then they're going to carry on ripping you off and making you pay for the Dosses and the Ponces and the people that don't contribute. And enough's enough. And, you know, I'm getting told off for being outspoken. They want to take my OBE back. Well, they get my OBE back when I'm ready.
They want to take it back?
Well, they've tried all that nonsense and come up with some rubbish.
Charlie,
they want to take it because they're trying to knock successful people. But they will get it back when it suits me. And if Reeves...
Who is they? Who's contacting you about this? This is ridiculous.
Well, the busybodies in the government, obviously. You know what I mean?
I can see it right there behind you.
Sorry?
I can see the OBE behind you, right? Is the king giving that to you?
I'm very proud of it, and you know,
as you should be
for it, and you know, I'm very grateful and thankful for it. And I got it from at the time Prince Charles, as you can see, and probably one of the biggest achievements I've ever got. But I'll make a statement now. They can stick it up their backside if Reeves doesn't get the sack. She's got to go. She's destroying the country. And as I say, the amount of people now that are leaving the UK, and it's not just money people. I mean, 17-year-old youngsters don't have money. There's loads of youngsters now. I'll tell you, if you want to, you've got no future in the UK. You've got no future at all with Labour government in. If and when reform get in, maybe they turn it round and start to realise the benefit of business people. They realise the benefit of training up youngsters.
Charlie, a question that goes through my mind when I look at the exodus, not just of young people, let's say on 100K, so young, up-and-coming, successful people, but the exodus of millionaires and billionaires. From memory, I think in the last year, the UK had the second highest net exodus of millionaires of any country in the world behind China. And when you think that China has a population of about 1 billion plus, that's an extraordinary statistic. How much of this is just ranking competence on the part of the government in that they can't create an environment where you can build a career? But how much of this do you think is ideology, where secretly they kind of go, you know what, if you've got a lot of money, see you later, we hate the wealthy, we want a redistribution of wealth, we want an old school socialist system. How much of this is incompetence and how much of this is actually old school class envy ideology?
Well, I think it's more of a modern thing now. I don't think it's about old money. I don't think it's about all this nonsense about old in wealth. People that create jobs and train people and help out in society, they actually spending their money around. But I think we're just fed up of giving 50% to non-workers. I mean, probably that's a better way of putting it. Why should we keep paying for people that are not prepared to go to work and can go to work? And I'll be honest with you, I've got all the time in the world that people that generally need the help with general mental health issues and disabilities or caring issues, but I ain't got no time for the people that can go to work and won't go to work. And I ain't going to pay for them no more. They will never get 2 bob out of me again. I have a company in the UK, We Fix London, which is a family business. They're complying with the tax regulations. That's what we have to do in the UK. But they will never get another penny out of me. I'll tell you what, I'd rather burn it.
Charlie, you represent everything good in this country. I tell you what, someone who's worked from the ground up, they've built themselves a business, they've provided jobs, they put other people's kids through school, through employing people. This is everything that Labour despises and hates. And you know what? I don't blame you for a second for wanting to get the hell out of this country while it's under the reign of Rachel Reeves, because you're right. A lot of your taxpayer dollars are going into the national debt, the NHS that doesn't work, and paying for other people's kids. So you know what? Screw that. Charlie, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
That's been great.
I don't have to make any excuses for being successful. And anyhow, now I'm going to go out to dinner. Thank you.
Go and enjoy your dinner that you deserve, okay? That's the great Charlie Mullins. That is the founder of Pimlico Plumbers and also... yes, well, you wanted to say something there?
Well, I want to make an important delineation between love of country and hatred of the government. Charlie is a patriot. There's no two ways about that. I've heard several people who have moved to Dubai or moved to continental Europe or moved to Australia who said, you know what? I love this country. I love its history. I love its values. I love what it was. but I despise what has been done to it, not just this current government, but from the last 20 years of mismanagement. So I think we need to make it really clear that when people like Charlie talk, they're not saying they hate Britain. They're saying they hate what has been done to Britain by poor management and, quite frankly, an ideology that just doesn't work.
That's a working class man who's paid over £120 million just in tax.
Yeah.
That's who Charlie is. So we're going to talk about, actually, we're going to change route a little bit. We're going to talk about Afghanistan after the break. Trump's got some words for them and other third world countries.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, oh my goodness, Trump has done something that yet again every single Western leader should take heed of, especially those here in Britain where we've had our own issues with Islamist extremism, and we've also brought in a lot of Afghan nationals, especially after we pulled out of Afghanistan. Now, some of them did come over because they assisted UK and US military people with their efforts over there. But unfortunately, one of them has been very unsavoury and shot two servicemen in Washington. Let's take a look at what Trump had to say about what happened.
Do you blame all Afghans for this one man's not?
No, but we've had a lot of problems with Afghans because they had a lot of them coming in on these planes. There was no check-in. They just poured into the plane. And many of these people are criminals. Many of these people are people that shouldn't be here.
That is why people love Trump. He is saying what everyone is thinking. Yeah. When something like this happens, we don't want your thoughts and prayers. We want action. And that's what Trump actually does. And that's what he's done today. So he's basically said that we want to pause migration from all third world countries. What do you guys think about that? Do give me a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number. Should we, as the UK, after this instance in the US, pause all migration from third world countries? Well, what do you think about that?
I've made my thoughts on this pretty clear on a range of occasions on this channel, but I will repeat them for clarity. I think it was El Salvador's president who said the now immortal line, "You can just do things." And Trump is a great example of just, if there is a problem, you can fix it if you hold the levers of power. Now, in this instance, we know statistically that people from third world countries are disproportionately more likely to commit crimes, particularly crimes of a sexual nature. I think we heard the statistic from the Centre for Migration Control that Afghan immigrants are up to 23 times more likely to commit sexual criminal offences compared to someone who was born in the United Kingdom. We know this is a stat, but even if you don't want to believe the stats, just go back to first principles. If you come from a country which is a third world backwater, which treats women as second-class citizens, what do you think is going to happen when they arrive in the United Kingdom? Do you think they're going to become Western liberal feminists as soon as they hit the beach? It doesn't work that way. There is this misguided belief that somehow with, a couple of training courses and maybe, giving them a pamphlet on the rights of women, somehow integration works. It doesn't work that way. And I'm sorry, again, we're not saying that every Afghan is necessarily going to be a criminal, necessarily going to be a threat to society, but what we are saying is, if you are coming from a culture which is not culturally compatible with the West, it is not an acceptable risk to be taking those people in. This is the right decision from Trump, and it should be one which is copied by the UK government.
Absolutely. I mean, it should have, to be honest, copied the day that we had a terrorist attack. Years and years ago, we started having, with the rise of Islamist extremism, we started having a lot of these Islamist terrorist attacks. And I remember in Trump's first term, when there were cries when he started banning Muslim countries, from entering in. There's one side of me that says, actually, it's an economic argument. It's an argument to say that there's a difference between a Pakistani brain surgeon and an Afghan camel herder. There is but there is a difference, Sure. And I think there is that definitely to be said.
Sure.
But there is also the issue of when we have mass migration and we can't really control exactly who's applying, and the threshold is really low, that we do start to have these issues. So I think Trump is definitely, as per usual, ahead of the curve with this sort of thing.
It is immigration policy shouldn't be that difficult. This is why this is so annoying. It should come down to two very simple things. Number one, do you come from a culturally compatible country? Obviously, Afghanistan is not a culturally compatible country. Second, are you going to be a net contributor or a net detractor from the economy? Now, a Pakistani brain surgeon, I don't think there have been too many Pakistani brain surgeons come in the last 12 months, but let's say if you're a Pakistani brain surgeon...
There's fair few doctors, but they come through legal routes.
Sure. I think there are question marks over cultural compatibility, but I think that needs to be the two-part test. Now, for example, we are both immigrants. It would be incredibly hypocritical for us to say that immigration per se is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing if you have people who buy into the country, buy into its values, and are actually going to contribute to the economy. Unfortunately, the vast majority of immigrants do not do that. And if you come from the third world, it is more likely than not that you're not going to satisfy either of those two tests.
Well, exactly. And I tell you what, Britain is a golden ticket country. I've always seen it as that. I've seen Australia in the same way. I mean, I know on my visa it says no use of public funds. That means, Samara, you can't hop on the benefit system if you lose your job at Talk.
Yeah.
That's what that says. So I think it's quite interesting when we do have a very punctured system where, some people are getting massive amounts of benefits and others, I mean, it's... To be honest, moving to the UK is a golden opportunity for any Australians. Not everyone can do it. It's very expensive. So I'm a little bit confused as to these different pathways that people are taking, I mean, it's genuinely, it's very rare for an Aussie to live in the UK because it's an expensive pursuit, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I've often wondered this. And at the same time, when, for example, you come into the country on a skilled worker visa, you'll do an interview, you'll get your fingerprints done, you'll get your biometrics done, which of course they don't do for every illegal migrant that enters the country. It just seems like they make it as hard as possible for intelligent, for talented, for wealthy people to enter the country, and as easy as possible for people who are going to drain the country of its resources, which are already incredibly limited. I just don't get it. I can't get my head around it.
The system does need top-down reform. I've looked at it quite closely. It's very, very nice to some, not nice to those who actually want to contribute to the economy. I can tell you that much. Should we pause migration from third world countries? Should we do what? Well, I'm asking the audience too. 0344 499 1000. Give me a call because I really want to know your thoughts on this. It's a controversial topic, but it's something that I think we really should discuss, especially after there is one person dead because of some of these policies. We're going to talk about Nigel Farage, who's ahead of the curve on this stuff, after the break.
look, as I say, that's not the metaphor that I would have used. But I know that Kevin was trying to draw attention to, I think, some very, very distasteful comments, some very, very inappropriate loyalties within Reform, and more importantly, Nigel Farage's failure to grip these things. I mean, yesterday he was being interviewed in Wales, and when asked, are you going to get a grip? Are you going to investigate some of the things that are being said by people within his own party?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You know, I really like to do a lighter topic at the 45 right before the news, but actually this is really, really serious stuff. Now, the BBC has been accused. I want to just really state accused. This is not proven, but, you know, there are sources who have spoken out. They've said some things. This is another scandal. This is really, really scandalous stuff. So basically, makeup artists are being accused of using bodily fluids on Nigel Farage during BBC appearances. This is from an insider, okay? She's a best-selling author, Lisa Hilton. She's presented BBC TV documentaries, and she basically made the claim that Farage's face was painted with deliberately contaminated brushes when appearing on the BBC. Now, this is, a lawsuit waiting to happen. You know, we can all laugh about it, but when they say bodily fluids, they're mentioning spit, they're mentioning potentially other things. I don't necessarily want to get into it. Some people behind the glass have mentioned that this isn't just something that might happen at the BBC. This is something that might be happening at restaurants where Farage is. This is the left. Now, I mentioned before that they are a death cult. They do celebrate the deaths of people like Charlie Kirk, of people like hostages over in Gaza.
Yeah.
Okay? This is the left we're dealing with. They have become worshippers of some sort of satanic book that says that this is okay. Yeah. Will, what do you have to say to it?
I'll pull back the curtain, I should say, for the audience. We get given a run sheet on a show like this, and so I could see the topic coming up after the break, and I was trying to work out what's something clever I could say about this, and all I can just think is gross. Like, A,
it's disgusting.
Gross. But B, if I want to try and add a bit of colour, you know, which is what makeup artists should be doing properly if they were doing their jobs well, it would be, number one, if that was to happen at, say, talkTV or GB News or a right-leaning station, the station would be shut down immediately if there was even a little tiny skerrick of evidence.
And we would never do that. You know, we've had lefty people, we've had all people of walks of life come through these buildings, come through these doors. We've never done that. It's always been, okay, welcome.
And obviously that is the case. But it goes to show that there are clear double standards in place with media organisations that have a left-leaning perspective. And the other thing that I would say is it just goes to show, once again, if these allegations are correct, the institutional bias at the BBC doesn't just start at the top, it goes all the way down to the makeup artists. From top to bottom, there is an ideology that says Nigel Farage and people of his ilk are evil, and therefore the way that you take them down is evil. Like, it goes from the violent to the petty and disgusting. And it really just... Look, it's sad. It is sad that this is where political discourse and the political debate has got to in this country.
So she told The Critic magazine, naming no names, but Nigel Farage might want to start doing his own face, given the extraordinarily imaginative range of natural cosmetics which the brushes are loaded with when he's in the chair. Excuse me? What? I'm told these natural cosmetics include human saliva and other bodily fluids. I mean, sorry, if this is true, if this is proven true, the BBC is in a world of trouble.
Well, I thought the BBC was in a world of trouble last week, but, you know, where are the consequences?
Yeah.
Where are the consequences? Look, we all know that there is no justification for a publicly funded broadcaster in 2025. The BBC should be defunded anyway. This just adds further fuel to an already growing fire. The BBC is ideologically rotten to the core, and the fact that that even extends to the makeup room is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, but it's also believable. Every time they get caught out in a scandal, it's always to do with them vilifying the right.
Shocking.
That's the issue. You know, when we always say, oh, the BBC has a lot to apologise for, they need balance, they need balance. No. They need to be a little bit more with the times.
Yeah.
Farage, even in the last election, when he only had 4 weeks to campaign, picked up 4.3 million votes. That's who Reform is, and they've got over 200,000 members now. They are a massively influential party. They're not some fringe group anymore. And I'm not part of Reform in any official capacity, but just on a human level, I find this egregious. He's a human being, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, and I know several people who have worked at the BBC, and they will all tell you that if you want to be part of the news team at the BBC, there are certain positions that you just have to hold. You know, you may now just be able to get away with saying that a man can't be a woman. But there are still, you know, you need to be pro-Palestine, you need to be anti-Farage, you need to hold certain positions, or you just won't get promoted. You probably just won't get a job, full stop. The interesting thing about this story, apart from, again, just how gross it is that obviously the culture extends beyond just the newsroom to every single facet of the organisation, even down to the person who is spraying your hair or, you know, touching up your eyebrows. It is extraordinary, the depth of the institutional and ideological rot.
When will the right feel safe? 0344 499 1000 is the number. After the break, we'll be talking to one of your favourites, Young Bob. He will be here in the studio, and we'll be talking about drag queens. They're trying to scandalise your kids.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill, in for Kevin O'Sullivan, who you just had for 3 hours. So why don't you listen to me? I mean, honestly, the choice is very, very easy. No, I'm joking. Kev's probably enjoying dinner for once on a Friday night.
And they also don't have a choice as well.
Yeah, you do not have a choice. Someone's texted in saying, I love this geezer. You should have him all the time. I guess that's in reference to you, Will. There you go. You got some fans over here in the text messages.
Thank you, mate. Checks in the mail.
I'll tell you who else has got some fans. Thomas Moffat, otherwise known as Young Bob. He's here in the studio. I know he's your favourite. I've never had audience response like this than when he's on. Welcome to the studio, Young Bob. Seriously, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, especially considering that it seems like every single week I involve myself within the news cycle.
Yeah, you're constantly embroiled in scandal, aren't you? When I say scandal, I actually mean just sticking up for this country, which few and few do. This man is a true patriot, and we all owe him a massive, massive service. Look, I want to talk to you about this. Angry parents. They've been called for a Christmas theatre show for young children. I'm talking about under fives, by the way, the most impressionable of all impressions. They got presented a drag show by a drag queen called Tanya Lecoq, okay? Sorry, first of all, what? I'm not laughing, but I'm laughing at the absurdity of it and the fact that this.
Subtle, is it?
Sorry, but the fact that this got across the board. I mean, you're just looking at it right now. That is not appropriate for under five. We had to blur most of that because it's just not appropriate.
Disgusting.
So basically, Conservative campaigners have threatened protest outside the event, describing it as a horrific perversion of the Christmas period. Now, the event was at Richmond Theatre. Richmond is a very liberal place, we know that, in West London, December 19th. It's been billed as a family-friendly play, Festive Magic with Drag Tales, Christmas edition, starring the spectacular Tanya Lecoq. Now, Turning Point has said essentially that they're going to protest against the show. Well, thank God I've got one of the chief men of that organisation in the studio. Are you going to protest this?
Absolutely. So firstly, I think it's interesting that a 17-year-old needs to tell you that my generation are being sexualised through the early exposure of pornographic material, including what I would consider drag queens. I mean, they sort of uniform women as over-sexualised characteristics as a form of uniform. I don't think you consider it flattery that they think a woman is someone in big breasts, dressed up in a dress with a long hair. I think there's more of womanhood to that. So the fact is that 5-year-olds are too young to explore this material, and even teenagers. I mean, if you look at the average age of pornography consumption, it's about 11, and I think there's a correlation between...
It's even 8 in some countries.
Yeah, I think there's a good correlation between the sexualization and the exploration of gender identity with their consumption of pornographic material. They're hypersexualizing these children through transing them. I mean, why would you need to explore your gender identity at such a young age when things aren't so concrete? You're living in this imaginary realm of anything's humanly possible. Then you introduce this concept that, well, yes, a man could be a woman. It confuses the youngest generation into this sort of Marxist illusion that we must progress in every single thing that we are taught as a younger generation.
I would have a problem if it was a
couldn't agree more, by the way, blonde
woman with big breasts in a bikini doing that dance in front of 5-year-olds as well. Like, it isn't just the problem that this is a drag queen, although I think there is a unique situation, a unique challenge there. But what I don't understand is, why is there this deliberate and conscious intent? And Bob, you may be able to help me with this. Sorry, young Bob, you may be able to help me with this. I'm curious as to what happens when you turn 30, or whether it will be, kind of middle-aged Bob. But we'll get to that.
Asking hard questions, Will.
Why is it that there does seem to be a conscious and deliberate attempt, whether through kind of drag story hour, or whether it be through these sorts of dance routines with young children, to get children involved in the trans movement?
I think that firstly, they look at the progressive movement, and the only source of sort of income of people that are going to join their movement is in young people.
Yeah.
I mean, would you consider most generations constituted here in the United Kingdom think it's viable to change your gender? I think most people just want to go about their day not being bodily insecure about themselves. However, young people are at their moment in their life where they want to transition in terms of their careers, they actually want to make a legacy for themselves, and in this very vulnerable state of being, you can very easily assimilate this sort of idea that one of the things that you should change, including puberty, and that's why puberty blockers are such a damaging concept. I think Rupert Lowe has actually sent a letter out because recently there's been attempts to kind of use puberty blockers on young children.
Yes.
I mean, puberty blockers are literally
Which
this
West Reading
understanding.
said he wouldn't do, by the way, but he missed that little bit. Oh yeah, we could trial them.
Yeah, so
you're right.
Puberty blockers are literally, I'm too scared to be an adult. And when have we ever taught in education at all that we should be scared of progressing into adulthood?
Amen.
I think that's absolutely ridiculous that young people are being taught just this absurd things. I mean, on the political right, would we rather be discussing the new budget coming in that could fall to the detriment of this country? Or do we rather want to be discussing on the fact that these people are perving on our children and transing them?
Yeah, I assume that's a rhetorical question, but the answer is obviously we want to speak about the problems that are facing this nation. Bob, you are closer to school than I am, and Samara, you are as well, actually.
Yeah, we're the same generation.
This is a separate but related question. Whenever someone says, is woke dead to me, or us, I should say, is woke dead to me, I say absolutely not, because the way that the educational institutions from primary through to secondary, through to university, have been corrupted by this progressive ideology means we'll be fighting this battle for decades to come. Can you give me some personal insight into how a particular type of progressive ideology has infiltrated the school system?
I think that it's just this understanding that we have to progress constantly. That's taught wokeism. So, like, if you're, for example, in the history classes, right, you understand that you have to progress certainly in certain areas of, like, humanity. So, of course, the abolition of slavery, these sort of things are actually decent towards this country. However, when you go even further, and you go into further concepts like, what is a woman, and you give an absurd answer to that, that is when the education system enshrines to young people these sort of woke ideas. Now, I think when we say, is woke dead, I think that there is a political right that is going against the suppression of young people when it comes to questioning these ideas. There are many young people who don't think about these things and just laugh at people when they get told that, oh, you have to accept that there's more than two genders. So certainly, I think that at some point, there's going to be a moving away of wokeism. However, it's still very much enshrined within most young people.
Yes, I completely agree. And you know what? It's almost the rebel spirit. I mean, there's a couple of US publications that have written about this. It's the rebellion for us to both be quite right-wing and quite young. We are the rebel group, unfortunately, and they are the mainstream people at the moment. And that is what makes me think, yes, there is going to be a revolt against it. But I think it's also just what feels good. You know, Christianity, to me, it feels good. The values of it are things that make people feel good. And we are part of a generation that is addled with anxiety, depression, and you're right about pornography, the over-sexualization of everything. I think that's when we do see people come back to the faith. Would you agree with that?
Yes, so there's two tribes of people. People who think good is pleasurable and people that think good is results.
Right.
So Christianity gives goodness in its results. It disciplines young people. However, what is good being pleasurable is sexualizing yourself and going around this route of degeneracy. And that's what I see with a lot of young people who turn out to be trans. Why do you think a disproportionate amount of transitioning people are from males to females and not females to males? It's because most young men are isolated, they have extreme anxiety, they're not finding partners, and in which case they just believe that instead of being a man, which is incredibly difficult, it's taught within the Christian ethos of being the head of the household, they've now decided that an easier thing, and of course this is taught through, I don't know, it being economically viable to be like an OnlyFans model, I might as well be a woman. And that's why there are so many different like transgender icons that also end up being porn stars.
Yes, I agree. Look, first of all, but one thing I do just want to say is that there is a section of the trans community with body dysmorphia, and, you know, they do, that is a very, very small minority, but they do have, you know, legitimate reason to feel like they want to identify. What I really do have an issue with, I agree, is it's become very commercially viable to be a woman these days and to be a trans woman. I famously ripped up a copy of the Glamour magazine on air because it glamorized what being a trans woman is. Now, I do really think that when we caricature women, as you said earlier, a trans woman, a drag queen is a caricature of a woman. It's someone with fake boobs, fake nails, and a wig on, and they call that a woman. It's, to be quite frank, it's almost a sort of bastardization of womanhood, and it's almost like making it a mockery, making it a joke for people to laugh at. And that's what I think when I see drag queens, to be honest. But yeah, well, you do. Yes, you want to chime in here?
Well, I just want to add a nuance, Bob, because I agree with most of what you've just said, but I also want to resist a puritanical instinct that may be emerging amongst young people, largely as a result of some of the disgusting nonsense that we've just been seeing. Young people are having less sex than previous generations. Young people are taking less drugs than previous generations. Young people are drinking less.
Why are you saying that as if it's a bad thing,
than previous generations? I'll let people make their own minds up. For what it's worth, I believe a bit more sex, drugs, and rock and roll isn't the worst thing for the younger generation.
He's an old school liberal, Bob.
But the problem for me is that there is almost
like a Bill Maher.
There is almost an overcorrection which says that you need to have this puritanical instinct to respond to woke nonsense. I think kids should still be free to make bad choices, be free to have fun.
Yeah, but where the hell has hookup culture gotten us as a generation? I think it's gotten us nowhere. It's gotten us to the anxiety and depression stage where half this nation, not half of it, but a lot of this nation are on benefits because they're all too depressed and anxious to even leave the house.
I think that's a pretty tangential segue. But I'm just asking, how do we balance these competing instincts of A, responding and resisting woke nonsense, but B, saying your teenage years and your 20s are times to have fun, to maybe make some mistakes, to be a bit rebellious. I think we need to work out how do we find a middle ground.
So,
what would you say to that?
It's a combination of both. So, look, let's go down different routes, because at times you've taught two different things. Originally, it's this puritanical Christian understanding that you have to uphold to strict principles in your progression of life, and another is that anything's acceptable, although you worded it in a bit more of a genuine way in terms of you should be able to make mistakes. However, that kind of translates to young people as even if in instances where you weren't going to commit mistakes, you're allowed to do so. So, for example, if you go up to a child and it's like, yeah, it's absolutely fine to commit mistakes, then they're going to take that as a permission to make mistakes when they weren't going to. So you see this with hookup culture, right? Okay, it's okay to have sex outside of marriage. I think it's a common position that most people hold to in society. Now, of course, I have a different opinion, but most people would say if you want to have sex outside of marriage, have a degree of, you know, picking the right partner. However, you can do it outside of marriage. Now, if you tell that to a young person who's extremely vulnerable, what they're going to take away from that is that they can sleep with as many people as humanly possible. So there has to be a moderate approach. The education system can't be seen as this bone idle institution, in which case you can do whatever you want, it's absolutely fine, we're going to mother you to death, and we're going to come for every single choice you make. However, if we revert back to the puritanical Christian position, I think what we're going to find is a bunch of disenfranchised, hippie, blue-haired atheists who are like, hey man, that's not the religion we prescribe to. So I think that there needs to be a combination of a social safety net when it comes to education, ensuring that people are comfortable of confessing the sins that they have in education. However, pushing away a lot of their deficiencies. So this common understanding that it's a good thing to have sex outside of marriage, even though it has an increased chance of transmitting sexual diseases, even though it will, of course, increase divorce rates, which we're already seeing across the UK, which leads to a greater issue of poverty. So, like I said, there needs to be a nuanced approach. Anyone who says it's an easy solution is lying to you.
That's true. But I think we can all agree on is you mentioned educational institutions in that answer. Educational institutions need to stay as far away from these issues as humanly possible, in my opinion. This is an issue for parents to talk about their kids and to infuse their morality into children. I think
Children don't listen to their parents, though.
Well, do a better job in your parenting then.
All right.
Because I'm sorry, it is not a school's job to teach morality. It's a school's job to educate. It's a school's job to be able to teach critical thinking, all those sorts of good things. It's not a school's job to get into morality. Because I'll tell you what, Samara, when schools get into morality these days, they will get into far left, toxic woke ideology. They're not going to be getting into kind of, the type of good Christian values that we would have hoped maybe, a public school in England in the 1800s would have been getting into.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but it also comes down to, freedom. I agree with you. We're talking about two different ideologies, and it's quite interesting to have both of you in the studio because I think you both represent different strands of the conservative movement. You're very conservative in one way, Will, and you're extremely conservative in another way. And I think that there is space for both. Unfortunately, in America, we see that the right is very fractured. Do you think that we've got the same issue here?
So we have the same issue, however, we understand that there's only one viable solution in terms of party politics. Most people are going to say, although principally I might go to smaller dissident right-wing parties at the moment, given the next general election, I'll vote for reform. Yeah. So what you might see is come when Farage is elected as Prime Minister, the afterwards effect is that people start dividing in terms of the next coming general election, which you're seeing with Trump at the moment. There's a split between America First, MAGA, and other small right-wing movements within the Republican Party. However, I think at this moment, a divided right is actually quite beneficial. I mean, at a time where reform are moving towards more of the Lib Dem sort of voter bloc, having other smaller right-wing protest movements actually switch the Overton window towards more socially acceptable points. And that is when Farage moves in to actually talk about them. So I think that right now, a divided right is actually beneficial. We're at a secure place where everyone knows across the electorate that regardless of who you're going to vote for principally, come the next general election, you're going to vote for reform.
Really good point there. And I do just want to say that basically, to circle back round to this Lecoq gig that we kind of came here to talk about, this drag queen, which I think all the conservative movement can unite against. It's basically at the City of Quebec Club in London's Marylebone. Last year, the shows were billed as adult only. Now, Lecoq presented a Christmas show called 'Tis the Season, BITCH, or however you want to say it. That's the video that we showed earlier. So that's not what's going to be shown to the children, but that is a flavour of what this drag queen shows kids. Lordy, I mean, I just do think about our corrupted next generation, and I think that, you and I did come out of the woke movement, and it just turned me more and more conservative, to be honest, because I just didn't want a bar of it. I mean, when are you protesting, and how's that going to happen?
So it's on the 19th of December,
right,
at 9 o'clock in the morning. And firstly, just on what you said, I think that there's a very much a human element, and we can speak about what the actual ideas are in terms of how grotesque they are. However, if you actually look, these are people with body dysmorphia that are disenfranchised by a cultural movement that tells them that they have to have life-threatening surgery in order to affirm their identities that are in their heads. So I always pray for the people that I originally interacted with when I was in education, because it's very upsetting. I mean, people that I genuinely love hate me because I don't believe that they're the gender that they affirm. In terms of the protest itself, we're not prone to, and we've done at several occasions, blocking drag stream story hours in terms of being at bars, teaching children. And you said that it's not going to be the same performance shown to children. However, children are curious, especially with them having access to phones and tablets. They're going to look up the star that they've just watched, and they're going to have access to that sort of explicit material. So, the Online Safety Act can say that they're alleviating the potential for children to actually see explicit material. However, it being very evident that in reality they're actually being exposed to this sexual content kind of demonstrates that a government is not actually doing a lot in terms of culturally to respond to a generation which is largely disenfranchised by reality.
Will, would you agree with that, or you don't?
No, I
agree with a lot.
I largely agree. I think that
We don't all need to agree, by the way. I love a bit of debate.
No, look, you know,
I know young Bob is, he's not, he's had many a debate, let's just say.
No, I largely agree. I'm a libertarian. I believe that you should be allowed to do what you want to do to the extent it doesn't hurt other people. Now, the fringes of my libertarianism have become more conservative, having lived in the UK, because I've realised that in a multicultural, low-trust society, libertarianism doesn't work as well as it does in theory. Now, that being said, what I would say in this regard is ultimately parents need to take accountability for the morality of their children. Now, unfortunately, there are some wacko parents out there that will expose their kids to this sort of stuff. I think we need to put safeguards in place for those sorts of wackos, but I don't think we should be putting morality in the hands of schools or in the hands of educational institutions. We need to say to parents, it is your job to raise your kids. It's your job to feed your kids as opposed to giving, government the ability to feed them for free or whatever. Ultimately, I think we need to say parental responsibility takes primacy.
Can I disagree there? So it's not certainly in this current economic climate, it shouldn't be expected that, parents should homeschool their children. What parents should do is actually pull their children out of education systems that brand a toxic political ideology and put them in schools that actually teach and align with their ideas. A lot of people that come into this country... Well, no, but I think that there's an alternative solution. You should be able to form a community where you share in the same ideas of the people in that community. And this is what you originally saw with churches. Churches coalesced a community of people that thought the same ideas. In a similar way, we should find, and families should come together, put on the map, where is an education institution, where is a school that I mostly align in terms of my political opinions? Because schools are largely meant for daycare. I want to, when I have children, say, look, I trust my school to leave my children and they actually are brought up a better person for it.
You know what? I think parents have a lot to answer for. I actually don't believe in state intervention when it comes to this stuff. I think we need to stop using the iPad as a babysitter. That's a whole other conversation for another time, and I could talk to you all night, young Bob, because I love you. I love having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Every time I have a conversation with you, I feel so much smarter and so much more learned. So thank you, and the audience is absolutely loving it. I think it's a great debate to have. It's something that we do need to be having because right now there's still drag queens scandalising our kids. That's the reality of it. So I appreciate you sticking up for it. That's young Bob. After the break, we're going to have many, many other things to talk about. We've got a man who has a £9,000 contract. He's been cancelled for flying some British flags. Get me out of here!
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist. exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, £9,000. That's a lot of money. Well, this man's contract has basically been cancelled because he basically put up some Union flags and some St George's Crosses flags on some lampposts. I mean, bloody hell. Is this the state of the country where, you know, people are getting their lives destroyed for putting up a flag of their own country? I almost can't say that without laughing because it's ridiculous. But it's like, do you laugh or do you cry? Let's talk to Bill Crotty. He's the man at the centre of this scandal. Bill, welcome to the show. Or Billy.
Hi, Samara.
I've just called you Bill like my granddad. It's Billy, isn't it?
No, it's all right. We don't mind. As I get older, I get called Bill a bit more, so... Yeah,
well, I've seen you do the media rounds this week and a little bit of last. I know you spoke to Kevin O'Sullivan because this is a mad story and this has gotten everyone's sort of antennas up because I think it really encapsulates what's going on right now. Can you just explain to me what's happened to you and how your life has been destroyed by some of the decisions of this ridiculous council?
Yeah, so during the summer, I travelled through sort of Harlow and Epping where the Raise the Colour movements started. And it kind of inspired me to get out and put a few flags up. Just me and a group of friends. And yeah, we put them up and it was all going really well. Everyone was, a lot of people who I was speaking to that they were just really happy to see them. And then we started coming in for a little bit of flack from it, and yeah, and then I've had issues with my work, and yeah, you can feel a little bit bullied by the by the establishment really at times.
You shouldn't be bullied because you didn't do anything wrong. It's as simple as that, Billy. I want to bring Will Kingston in here, who's definitely got a lot of thoughts on this issue because as Australians, we deal with a similar sort of thing over in our country. But this is another level of ludicrous. Yeah, Will, what do you have to say to this?
Well, Billy, number one, my sympathies are with you, mate, because it is just a surreal and utterly unfair situation. I think the thing which annoys a lot of people is the double standard here, and that I've got no doubt if you were putting up Palestine flags or rainbow flags, that there wouldn't be anywhere near the level of outrage or the level of impact on your business. Yeah, from your personal experience, what is it about the Union Jack or the Cross of St George, what is it that infuriates these people so much?
I think you can have an opinion as long as it's the right... Yeah. As long as it's not the wrong kind of opinion, because that's how I've felt with it. But the general public are right on our side. I can only report from the people who I've spoke to and the reception I've got and all the support that I've got since this has been in the media. So listen, whatever anyone says...
It's got to be tough losing £9,000. I mean, has that had a devastating effect on you and your family? I mean, that's a lot of money for anyone. Yeah, well,
I've got 5 children to feed, so it is a bit of a worry. I'm an established business. I'm well trusted around the area. Everyone knows that I can do the job. We are the top tree fellas. Yeah, so you know, we've been getting by, but it's certainly not. It's never helpful, is it, when you have that kind of money pulled from under you?
Well, you're also a small business owner in the context of an environment where it just feels like Rachel Reeves is hitting you with more and more taxes and regulations and making it harder for you to do your business. How have you been feeling more generally about the way that this government is treating small business?
Yeah, well, it's just, it seems to me that the harder you work, the more you try to get on, the more you get punished. It's right the way through society, and you're also around our local area. We've got Liberal Democrats, councillors, and MPs. They're anything but liberal, you know.
Such a good point, honestly.
To someone with opinions like mine, you know, like there's a video what I posted, and they done it late at night. You know, it was the way that they done it. So we got an army barracks by us, Battlefield Barracks.
Is it not being used to house asylum seekers yet? Is that?
Not yet. It's always
not yet. Okay.
Anyway, we had this row of St George flags, and then it went stretched all the way into the next village. And I was on the news and that for it. And then one night I got a call from an upset resident, and they're like, "They're taking your flags down, Bill. Get you and the lads get up there." And it was just the nature of how they done it. You know, they even took down. There's a pub in the village of Bassingbourne, and he's been a real supporter of us. He'd give me a few flags and that, and he even took his flag down off of his flagpole. Admittedly, it was a mistake, but he ran out to him, and then this was sort of about 11:30 at night. You know, it's not really. There's so many more democratic ways that they could have done it. Anyway, so this is all off the back of the Liberal Democrats, because recently I got in touch with on the night I pleaded with them. I said, "They're my flags. Give us the flags back. I understand you've got to do your job because you know they're working for the highways. They wouldn't give them back to me on the night." And then I heard that I've got like 3 months to claim them back. So I sent them an email recently, and they knocked me about and deliberately ignored me, I think. And then they got back to me and they said, "Well, you can't prove that they're your flags," despite everyone in the area knowing that I put them up and me holding my hands up to them. And they said, "You're not having them back." So and to me, there's something going on a bit higher up. That they said, don't give them back, because they probably thought they could go back up the lamppost. So.
I think there's something to that. Billy, obviously as part of your job, you are embedded in the local community. You're speaking to customers of yours every single day. Yeah. How do people, you know, that you interact with, just everyday normal people, how do they feel about this sort of culture war that goes on around the flag? And I guess the state of the country more generally.
Yeah, well, so just a quick bit of background of the town. Where I grew up, Royston, I'm a little closer to Cambridge, but I'm still in Royston, and Royston's kind of like a London overspill town. So, like my family, we moved down from North London, from Tottenham. So I think that's why there's so much alarm at what's happening in the country, because people have been they've moved out of London, and they just feel like they're not being listened to, and the events are really alarming them. So we got a lot of support around that area.
You know, it's funny, isn't it, Billy? Like, you know, first of all, it's ridiculous. And we've had Nick Badger, the chairman of the parish council, telling the BBC, at the time there was intense press interest in Billy Crotty and his flag raising. As parish council, we are a non-political scoff organisation, as we remain neutral on the matter and therefore felt it necessary to withdraw the contract. Well, sorry, that's ridiculous.
Completely made up.
Yeah,
but also the flag should be apolitical. That's the whole point.
The flag should not... Sorry, we're in the land of Great Britain. It should not be an issue. And you know what? Cambridgeshire County Council has a lot of issues, you know. Rising demand in costs, adult social care. We've got heavy budget pressures, 4.99% council tax raise because they've had a massive funding gap. They've got environmental conflicts around transport projects, you know, bus routes, etc.
A lot more to worry about than a few flags.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They are completely focusing on the wrong things here and taking money away from the wrong people. It really seems like this council has to get their ish together, because they are completely misguided in this pursuit of you.
Billy, can I add a question onto that?
Yep.
Is this because that, you know, it is easier to pull down flags and they feel more warm and fuzzy knowing that they're being morally virtuous in their eyes by doing this, and it's just harder to fill in the potholes and to, you know, do the kind of nuts and bolts stuff that a council is expected to do. Like, why do you think the councils, not just here, but across the country, are focusing on these virtue signalling issues?
Yeah. I do think that a lot of people who get involved in councils, they're the kind of people who hold these kind of anti-British virtue signalling views. Because that point in there, what they said about they have to be seen to be non-political. No, they don't. That's completely made up. Because I've been in contact with the Free Speech Union, and they've been great advising me, because I did definitely feel I felt a bit bullied, and I sat on it for about a month, I suppose, and that's why people said, like, oh, you've left it so long now, and well, like they're the people who make the silly comments at the bottom of X and things like that. So they're not all that important anyway. Yeah. But I just sat on it and I thought, why should I put up with this? This isn't right. So the Free Speech Union have been, you know, they've been helping me deal with the parish council, and now we're looking at other avenues, what we can go down to hold them to account for.
I've seriously got to give a big shout out to the Free Speech Union. They are doing a world of good. They have genuinely, the amount of people that we've had on our station that they've helped, without them, they wouldn't be receiving adequate legal guidance or guidance for in any matter, and they'd just be left out in the cold and gaslit by these councils and communities.
And I'd like to give thanks to people like you and you'll know what other competitor I'm talking about, because they was the one who got this spoken about. You had me on it. Some of the tricks what the BBC have done to me, they make no secret of I'm not their kind of person. Like, I don't know.
But they're apolitical too, aren't they, Billy? You know, they're not. They're completely neutral. Give me a break.
Well, I done a pre-recorded interview with them this week because of the budget, and
I'm sure that's not the only reason, Billy, that it was pre-recorded.
Right, absolutely. So absolutely, you know. So the lady, we had a little bit of a heated debate, and she come up with that famous line. Well, these asylum seekers, some of them are doctors and engineers, and I was almost chuckling to myself, and I thought, I would love for you to put that out, because that is so ridiculous. And I pointed out to her, I said to her, but they've got legal routes that they can come in. These are low-skilled workers who are coming in. They're not a net benefit, because most of them don't even meet the tax thresholds. She said to me, well, they don't claim, they're not allowed to claim benefits. Well, firstly, it's costing us to keep them, and secondly, there's a 5-year time bomb, because they are allowed to claim benefits in 5 years. So when we get this big influx of people here, in 5 years' time, they're all of a sudden going to be entitled to these benefits. So I'm a patriot first and foremost. I put the flags up because they look good, and I wanted to prove that you can raise a national flag in your country. But I don't think I should be punished for raising concerns, what many working class people have. How many's too much? Are these cultures?
How many's too much? There's never enough, Billy. And thank God for people like you. That is Billy Crossy. He's a tree surgeon and a patriot. Thank you so much for joining us, Billy. I mean, that man's had his life destroyed for putting up a Union Jack. Now, look, okay, I've got a very big test for the audience. I've got 2 lines free right now. If you want to call in, 03444991000, and try and get in, try and call, try and talk to Will and I.
Nothing's off limits.
Yeah, nothing is off limits, as you can tell from this show. Try and get in while we go to break right now.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go to someone who basically has a show on this channel. It's Georgina in London. Georgina, welcome to the show.
Hello, my darling. Getting to be on more than you are at the moment.
I know, which is a feat, isn't it?
Always wonderful to see you, my darling. You brighten it up. You really do. Well, I've seen a lot of guests on your show that have been sort of championing the BBC, saying how wonderful they are. Well, I beg to disagree.
Who?
I
Which
don't
guest?
think. Well, the people who you have on, sort of contributors who come on the little screens, not actually in the studio, but they come on and say how great the BBC is, and you'll
not on my show.
Corner. Not on your show, my darling, but I have seen them. Okay. But, you know, they're talking through the bottom, to be quite honest, because at the moment they can't do anything right because they're doing it all wrong. The BBC are the woke, box-ticking, virtue-signalling, all-loving, humanitarian paragons of virtue. Well, I'm here to tell you, in reality, they are the exact opposite of that. The double standards within the Beeb are breathtaking. When they're supposed to think that the left are the be-all and end-all, and the world pleasers, and the right are supposed to be the world's worst.
You know what, Georgina, you're so right. And the reason that we have such a high standard for the BBC is because they set that standard themselves. They were once a fantastic institution. They were one of the greats. Everyone went to them to look at what journalistic integrity looked like. But no. Now they're not. Now they're putting random stuff on Nigel Farage's face. Bodily fluid. I laugh because I'm like, otherwise I could cry. This is what the institution has come to. This used to be a respected institution. No longer. God.
Like I was going to say to you, my darling, that was a long time ago when they were respected. They are respected no more. I just thought that the Beeb couldn't have sunk any lower, but I was obviously wrong. Anyone who would deliberately smear any kind of, I mean, the thought of it makes me feel physically sick. Any kind of bodily fluid on an unsuspecting guest's face is in my estimate. I would hate to think what we're talking about here, but I'm just letting my mind run wild here. That for me is the lowest.
Georgina, when you say your mind's going wild, what do you think they put on?
Do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to
go on?
What time is it? What time is it?
Say what you think. Say it's Friday night.
I think there has been wee in there. I think someone's wee-weed. I think the spitting, there's probably a little bit of sperm for good measure. There's been horrible things. They might have trumped in it. They might have done anything. I don't know, but I am just letting my mind run wild. I read this morning, and I felt absolutely sick. And I feel so sorry for Nigel, because that guy's done a lot of interviews. He's going to want to do his own makeup from now on, I'm telling you that. Oh. And he's also going to take his own sandwiches and flask. He's not going to take any chances. And I've got to say that I'm with him 100%. But what you've got to think on a serious note here, these bodily fluids can transmit disease.
It's disgusting.
It may be he had his lips powdered with powder or cream put on his face. He might have licked his lips. You just don't know. You don't know. But this man has been put in danger. I mean, what are they trying to do to him? If they invited me on a show...
Did you say he could have ingested this bodily fluid?
Exactly. Well, you don't know, Samara. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's a potential lawsuit. Well, this is a potential lawsuit, Georgina.
Well, it's a potential lawsuit.
I just want to say, by the way, this is all alleged. We haven't proven any of it. It's all alleged, but this doesn't just come from nowhere. You don't just wake up and say, this happened to Nigel.
Without fire. There is no smoke without fire. Someone's obviously got the hump with the BBC.
Allegedly.
Who's used to work there. Allegedly. Let's put allegedly. But we know there's no smoke without fire. How many other guests have they done this to? When Nigel's been there, did he have a cup of tea? I dread to think what was in that. Did he have something to eat? What on earth is going on? The BBC are supposed to be the top-ranking, most trusted, paragons of virtue. And let me tell you, they have let themselves down time and again. And there doesn't seem to be... they're not pulled to account for it. They get away with it. Well, I'm sorry. If someone smeared my face with wee-wee or sperm, I think I'd be taking them to court. There'd be a problem. And I don't see why Nigel Farage should have to take this obscene action. You shouldn't have to do this. This is heinous.
Well, okay. Well, number one, Samara, I just knew you wouldn't be able to resist asking what fluids question before the show was
Sorry,
out.
I'm a journalist. I'm here to ask the tough questions, mate.
Yes,
How many fluids has a human body got? Well, come on now. You're a grown man.
Yeah,
There's
well,
only so
don't
many
act like you were
fluids
born
that a human
yesterday.
body got.
Cheerfully withdrawn. This does actually point to a broader point amongst the left, which is they don't feel they can win through debate, through discussion, through open inquiry. So either they need to do incredibly violent things, we've seen the Charlie Kirk assassination, or incredibly puerile things like this. It is a disgusting, it is a relatively small, but is a symbolic reminder that for the left, debate and open inquiry are out, and violence and just schoolboy puerile...
And it's medieval, isn't it?
Medieval disgustingness is in.
It's absolutely disgusting, Will. But do you know what? If you went into a restaurant and you were eating your food and you found maybe a rat turd in the meal, what would the Department of Health do?
Well, I tell you what, that's what lovely Mark behind the glass said to me. This could be happening to Nigel all the bloody time because of how people are.
Well, the people behind the glass are all over this. The people behind the glass know the stuff. Let me tell you, this is serious. If you went into a restaurant and you found something disgusting in your food, the Department of Health would come and they would close that place down. Now, how many other guests who've been on the beeb, who they haven't liked, or maybe, they thought, oh, well, we don't like their politics, or we don't like what they've been doing. How many other people has it allegedly happened to?
Well, we've had blooming Zach Polanski in the building, and, the makeup artists were lovely to him. They wouldn't think twice about putting something on his face. I mean, it's ridiculous.
We're the right, love, and they're the left. They're the virtue singlers. They're the ones who love everyone, when in reality...
Tell you what, the right are always the nice people, and the left always take it personally. Georgina, thank you so much for your call. You always speak a lot of sense, and you know what? You tell it like it is. There's no one else like you. Let's go to break, and Tony in Lancashire has been waiting a very long time, so we'll get to you after the break, Tony.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, after this, you'll get more of me because I'm sure that's what you want after this litany of phone calls and interviews. We've got What Just Happened. That's 9 to 10 o'clock. And then from 10 o'clock to 1 a.m. in the small hours, you will have Ash and Pete Barnes. So if you miss Pete Barnes tonight, you'll get him in just an hour. So stay tuned for that because they are the duo that, I mean, I haven't seen them before. I want to see just what the chemistry is like. Do they hate each other? Do they love each other? I mean, will it be a car crash? Will it be a love-in? Let's have a look. Do stay tuned for that because they do a lot of calls in that segment, and I'm sorry if we didn't get to your calls tonight. So let's quickly go to Tony in Lancashire. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hi, Samara, you okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thank you so much for waiting. I'm sorry, I got a bit carried away with Georgina there.
That's all right, yeah, she's a character, isn't she?
Yeah, she really is. What did you want to say? Trump, migration.
Yeah, well, that's one thing, but on the subject of Afghans, my mum gets an Uber to my sister's house. My mum's in her 70s, and she chats to everybody. So she's chatting to this guy, and he said he's an Afghan himself. He's been in the country 20 years.
Okay.
But he turned around to her and he said, it used to be lovely here, but it's not anymore. It's very dangerous, and he's moving to Belgium because it's too dangerous for him here. Was one thing that sort of tickled me in a sort of sad way, if it would. But the other thing I wanted to say was, if reform don't get in and things don't change and the country keeps going further and further down the rabbit hole, the Muslim MPs get more and more power. Is there a point when you ever run to the US and say, make us the 51st state to rescue us?
Oh my God!
Before
I would love that.
Could that ever?
I tell you what, the US is always 5 years in advance. Will, what did you? I mean, you've lived in the US before.
I have lived in the US. I've lived in Australia. Obviously, no, I don't think practically that would ever happen. But what I just think will happen will be that more people will just run full stop to the US. More people will go to Dubai. More people will go to Australia. We're already seeing the exodus as we speak. And I think you're spot on that for many people, 2029 feels like the last best hope for this country. Yeah. And we just pray that hopefully the right result is made, ideally before 2029.
Well, you know, we used to say about if we won the lottery, we'd buy a nice car, we'd have a lovely holiday, all these sort of things. Now we say if we won the lottery, what country would we move to?
Yeah, which is it's sign of the times, isn't it, Tony? Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I think, look, Trump at least, it's so refreshing to see someone in the White House setting the tone for the rest of the West. And that's all we can hope and pray for, is that this has a sort of ripple effect on us. So, Tony, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate it. Let's talk to Kevin in the Wirral. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hi, Samara. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. What did you want to say to Will and I?
Well, I was listening to your interview with Billy, which really infuriated me, the way he's been treated by the so-called Liberal Council. But
so-called. Orwellian.
Thinking about, exactly. 1984 and all that sort of stuff. Talking about the flags that they took down, and they said they wouldn't give him his flags back because he couldn't prove they were his. They they can't prove that they're theirs.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kevin. I mean,
so, yeah, if you think,
why are they withholding these flags?
Exactly. I mean, if you look at the Theft Act, so it sounds a little bit technical, but basically the Theft Act says if you take something that's not yours and you intend to keep it, it's theft. So
Correct.
they've stolen those flags, and Billy should take advice from some legal advice and sue them.
Will, you're a lawyer. Tell us. Give us the advice.
Well, I never said I was a good lawyer, but yeah, that's exactly right. That's what theft is. But I think councils feel like that they are instilled with, you know, this authority basically to do what they want. Basically, they're above the law. And you know what? For someone like Billy, for someone like Billy, it's very expensive to get lawyers. It's expensive to get legal fees, so they feel that they can bully these people without consequence, which is why I really do hope, like, there'll be people listening, you know, there are little things you can do. Support the Free Speech Union, for example. Billy mentioned them. You know, join up to the Free Speech Union. Support organisations like talkTV that bring these sorts of stories to the outset. Even if you yourself don't have the money or the resources to be able to fight back against these